Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of my rambling. Thanks to those of you that have checked out my videos, I appreciate it. I'm just on a walk here. Usually I bring my little chair with me and sit down and do this, but I just felt like I wanted to go on a little bit of a walk. So hopefully this isn't too wobbly for your liking. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I want to talk about. There's so many things. There's always so many things to talk about. And the whole point of this channel for myself was just to share some of the things that I've been through in my life and things that I've, tried to heal and recognize and be aware of, and shifting and changing and all that sort of stuff, and see if it resonates with anybody out there. And sometimes it feels like sharing is always kind of good medicine. A lot of the times to feel like we're not always alone, that people like us are going through the same thing, whatever those things are. We're all going through so many different things. And it's always fun I like watching YouTube videos of people that are just doing this sort of thing, which is what inspired me to do it like this. Because it's just a window into their life and what they're going through and the things that they're experiencing. And it's like, yeah, man, I get it. I see it. I feel the same way, or I didn't see it that way, the way you're seeing it. And so it's kind of fun to do that. It's been raining here a bit the last week, and just in this moment the sun's kind of poking out, and it's a perfect time to come out and just do a little bit of a walk. So it might get a little bright here, but the nature is just beautiful right here. I'm so fortunate to be close to this little road here that's super quiet. So the one thing I think that's been coming up for me lately, as I've been kind of processing and digesting my last sort of decade or so of my life, has been this topic of sovereignty. And I think it's something that's very relatable to most men. I think when you say the word sovereignty, men go like, yeah, I want my sovereignty. It's kind of a big word. I don't know if women have that same relationship to the word sovereignty. So it's interesting to digest that, what that means for us and what it's meant to me. I think it means something different for everybody, but just coming out of community living, it was always a struggle for a part of me, I think, to find what I would call that me in the we. Like, who am I amongst all of these powerful people with all of these ideas and these experiences of their own, and then taking from those and having a particular view of the world and seeing things in a particular way. And so then it was always easy for me growing up, I think, to always assume everybody else's kind of the way they viewed the world, whether it was my parents or friends or society. You're listening to news and other people yapping their flap about this and that, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, oh maybe you're right. So I think I've just had that growing up, where I was kind of I don't want to say an empty vessel at all, but I was certainly more receptive and influenced by other people's sort of take on things and their passions and all that. So then all of a sudden you just get sucked into it, like, yeah, or no. I don't know, I'm not quite, so it was easy for me to do that. So, I think even, being in my family or even in like spiritual community, there was a sense, I think, that I did allow myself to surrender something to another. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think there's always something positive to that. You're learning something, you're gaining some other perspectives. And so these are all great things that you're picking up. And I think eventually at some point, you just start to get to a point where it's like, but wait a minute, what's my take? And so I think is that aspect of us, that part of us, our essence, our true sense of self starts to come up to the surface and wants to become more embodied. I think there's this sort of like rumble between what's our truth in this particular moment, and then what is someone else's truth, and then there's this kind of this dynamic, this vibration that happens between the two. And I think for most of my life, I repressed and suppressed a lot of my own truth in many different ways, whether it's just truth about something very small or something very big, about my perspective or philosophy on life and love and whatever that is. Everything's just getting squelched, and that's not by anyone's fault. I think that's just something that I think I came into this world with, something, just this sort of sacred need to cap something until it was time to be uncapped. And for me, that uncapping happened about 1.5 years ago, kind of a dramatic way that I'd rather not have happen again. But it feels like a sacred uncapping, and I'm grateful for it, while at the same time I'd rather it not be that way again. But it's definitely taken me to a phase of, again, like I said before, I'm in a very sort of solitary space, and it has allowed me to start to feel, what is it that I believe in? What is my perspective, and how do I feel in this moment, and what do I want to do, and what do I want to say? And so it's just taken time to get there, and I've needed this isolation time to be in that sacred process, and to really reflect back on how much in my life I've really just held back and not really expressed things. And again, I don't want to hold that as something that was, bad. It just was what it was. And even if you're someone who feels like, yeah, man, I need to pop that thing, I need to let that go. Well, right on. That's great thing. That's a super thing. And for others, it may not be time. I don't know what the process is for people. You can't know that. All I know is I definitely felt like there was things that I felt inside of myself. It didn't feel well. Like, I think I wound up feeling physically unwell, whatever metaphysically things would happen to try to get me into that state, and I just wasn't happening. So there's a lot of things, quote, negative things that kind of occurred because of that repression. And again, I want to hold that sacredly, and I certainly would do it over again. If I were to go back to square one, I would not do it the same way, I don't think. But again, I wouldn't have known that unless I experienced it. So, whoa, nice. So this whole thing about sovereignty, I think, is just an ongoing process. And how do we hold and relate to that sovereignty? How can we still, and everything we do, I feel, no matter what it is, I think we're holding it we're doing it as a sovereign choice. I sovereignly chose to repress myself. I sovereignly chose to repress something. I sovereignly chose to be influenced. I sovereignly chose to, all those things. So it's all in sovereignty. When we finally get to it, I think we finally realize when we get outside of it and look at it from a meta perspective, we've always been in our sovereign choice. We've always been in our free will. And I know that's a tough one to grok, especially when something really bad has happened to you. And there are times that we absolutely get victimized by something. I would never say that no one's been victimized. And I think our sovereignty in that case, is a way that how do we now come out of that? How do we relate to it? How do we heal it? How do we deal with it? How do we use it for medicine in the world? That's a sovereign choice. The sovereign choice to relate to what has happened to us is very powerful. So I think there's a lot there. And I think for men, it comes down to this big difference between sovereignty and independence. And I still don't know if I can tell you the difference between the two inside of me right now. I'm not quite sure, but I could feel that there is. And so there's always this need and want to just kind of be on our own. And I think that we just need that as men. We need that sense that we have some sense of control over something in this very fucked up world. It feels uncontrollable at times, especially, you're looking at something like a devastating hurricane and responses to it and all that stuff. It's just like, where the hell do I have my power in any of this shit? It's really challenging. And I think that's where that feeling of sovereignty and freedom and independence, and I'm going to fucking do whatever the hell I damn well please. And there's something in that, there's a fire in there. There's definitely something that feels sacredly masculine in all of that. while at the same time, I think that we can probably over-identify and overdo the sovereignty thing to the point where we're no longer in relationship. And I'm certainly, butting up against that right now, recognizing that, there's a time and a place, and I feel like the time has come. And so now I'm just kind of walking out this new relationship to relationship, and how am I in that now that I've had some more of my own time and my independence and solitude and sovereignty, whatever that is. So yeah, again, I'm just kind of blathering here because I'm just letting it all out, but it feels important to keep considering, especially as men, and how we relate to that and its effect, some of the traumas and frustrations around not feeling sovereign, and why do we think we haven't been, and then even the extreme side of being completely solitude and without relationship. And I believe there's a perfect time for that too. I really do, because I've just been through it. So excuse me while I walk over this. So yeah, so I'm just curious about what your relationship and your feeling about sovereignty is, and how it's what it's meant to you in your life and how you relate to it. It's certainly a very, very sacred thing. And I know that this is something that's just rumbling in probably every single soul as we go through this kind of ongoing journey together in the collective, about what it means to be free and have liberty and sovereignty and all these things. I think we're just rustling through all of that and what it means. So I thought that would be an interesting topic to talk about. So I know that as I continue to relate to people in my life, I want to continue to talk about that and how it has been for me, and kind of explain or express how I can be in my sovereign state, but also be in relationship, and also take in what other people have to say and mull on that, and I get to then sovereignly choose my relationship to that, and then I get to come back, and then this is back and forth. And I just never did that. I just kind of allowed this constant influx of this is the way it is, this is the way it is. And so I feel really good about holding my ground on what it is that I believe in this particular moment. It's always open up for change through experience and reflection. And that feels very sovereign to me. And I like the feeling of that, while at the same time I get to let other people in and be in relationship. So. Okay, well, I think I'll stop there and see if anyone has anything to say about that. And I look forward to checking in again next week. And hopefully the world hasn't destroyed itself by then. And I wish you all the best. God bless. Talk to you soon.